Hello everyone, in this video we're going to explore the law of sides. Now, if triangle ABC is a triangle with sides A, B, and C. So if you look at the triangle right here, A is the side length of BC that's opposite to angle A. B is the side length of AC that's opposite to angle B. And C is the side length of AB that's opposite to angle C, right? Then we have A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. If you take reciprocal of this guy, you will get the new one right here, and they're both exactly the same thing, right? Now, solving a triangle is to find all measures of the lengths and angles of the triangle. To solve a triangle using law of sides, you need to know two angles and one side, right? Either AAS or ASA, which is you learn in geometry, right? Two sides and an angle opposite one of them, which is SSA, right? Now let's prove this theorem. Now remember, you have the trig ratio in the right triangle that you learn in geometry. Sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent equals opposite over adjacent, right? So, we're going to apply the trig ratio in the right triangle A, M, and C right here, right? So, sine of angle A right here equals opposite, which is H right here, right? Over hypotenuse is B right here, right? Because you have the right angle right here, right? So, sine A equals H over B. Now, similarly, I'm going to apply the trig ratio in this right triangle. So, I have sine B. It's going to be opposite over hypotenuse, which is A right here, right? Now, from the first one right here, I'm going to solve for H. So I'm going to multiply both sides by B. It's going to be B sine A, right? This guy, H equals A sine B, right? So then, by transitive property, I can conclude that this guy and this guy should be the same, right? Now, I'm going to divide both sides by sine B and divide both sides by sine A, right? So does that mean I have A over sine A equals B over sine B, right? So I leave this one over here. Now, in a similar manner, we're going to construct an altitude H1 from vertex B to AC, right? So I call this H1, right? So we're going to apply the trig ratio in the right triangle right here, right? So sine A equals opposite, which is H1 right here, over hypotenuse, which is C right here, right? So then H1 equals C times sine A, right? Now we're going to apply the trig ratio in the right triangle right here for angle C right here, right? So we have sine C equals opposite, which is H1, over hypotenuse, which is A right here, right? So then H1 equals A sine C, right? So from these two guys right here, we're going to use the transitive property. It's going to be C sine A equals A sine C, right? Now, we're going to divide both sides by sine A, right? And divide both sides by sine C. So does that mean A sine A equals C sine C, right? Now, we're going to apply the transitive property for these two guys right here. We're going to end up with A over sine A equals b over sine b equals c over sine c, right? This one finish the proof, right? Now, if you use the obtuse triangle right here, you're gonna end up the same thing, right? Example number 1, we need to solve the triangle AAS at right. So, we need to use the law of sine to solve for all the side lengths and all the angles, right? So, we given B, we given angle C, we given angle B right here, right? So, we have B over sine B equals C over sine C, right? We substitute value B equals 28 over sine B, which is sine 29, equals C. We don't know it, we just leave it right here. And sine C, which means sine 102, right? Cross multiply, we're going to end up with C equals 28 sine 102. Now cross multiply, we're going to end up with C equals 28 sine 102 divided by sine 29, right? So we're going to bring up the calculator. Now, since the angle right here is degree, your calculator mode should be in degree, right? So we're going to hit and go over here, change this one to degree, press enter, right? Hit second mode. Now it's gonna be 28 times sine of 102, right? Divide by sine of 29, press enter. It's gonna be 56.492, right? Now we need to solve for A, right? So in order to solve for A, we need to find the angle A right here first, right? So we're going to use the triangle sum theorem, right? We have the measure of angle A plus measure of angle B plus measure of angle C equals 180, right? And then measure of angle A equals 180, subtract measure of angle B equals 29, right? Plus angle C equals 102, right? So it's gonna be 49 degrees, right? So then we have A over sine A equals B over sine B, right? And then A over sine of 49 equals B. It's gonna be 28 over sine B, which is sine 29, right? So then we're gonna cross multiply, so A equals 28 sine 49 divided by sine 29, right? So we're gonna print up the calculator. It's gonna be 43.588. B equals 28 right here, and C equals 56.492, right? Angle A equals 49, right? Angle B equals 29, angle C equals 102, and we finish, right? Now let's move on to example number 2. A pole tilts toward the sun at an 8 degrees Celsius angle from the vertical, and it casts a 22-foot shadow. The angle of elevation from the tip of the shadow to the top of the pole is 43 degrees Celsius. How tall is the pole? Alright, so we're gonna sketch this figure, right? Now, the angle right here is 8 degrees, right? 22-foot shadows, which is the side length of C, that opposite to angle C right here, right? The angle of elevation from the tip of the shadow, so the angle of elevation is right here. It's gonna be 43, right? Now we know that the angle right here is 90 degrees, right? This is vertical one. So the total angle B right here equals 90 plus 8, right? 98 degrees, right? And then we're going to use the triangle sum theorem in the triangle ABC, right? So we solve angle C. So the measure of angle C equals 180 subtract angle A plus measure of angle B, right? So it can be 180 subtract measure of angle A equals 43 plus angle B 98, right? So it could be 39 degrees. Now we're going to use the law of sine, right? So we have A over sine A equals C over sine C, right? And then we need to solve for A, so A equals C times sine A divided by sine C, right? Now C right here equals 22. Sine A equals sine of 43, right? Divided by sine C, which is 39 right here. Right? So we're gonna print up the calculator. It's gonna be approximately 23.841. Now let's move on to example number 3. We need to solve the triangle at the right. Alright, so we're gonna use the law of sine because we have two side lengths and one angle, right? It's gonna be SSA right here, right? So by the law of sine we have B over sine B equals A over sine A, right? So sine B equals B sine A divided by A, right? B equals 12 sine A, which means sine 42 divided by A, which is 22, right? Now we're gonna print up the calculator. It could be 0.3649, right? Now we need to solve for angle B, so we need to take inverse side both sides, right? So we have the measure of angle B equals inverse sine of 0.3649, right? We're gonna press second sine inverse right here, right? And we're gonna pick this guy right here, press enter, and then close parenthesis, press enter. It's gonna be approximately 21.4 degrees, right? To solve for angle C, we just use the triangle sum theorem, right? So the measure of angle C equals 180. Subtract angle B is going to be 21.4 plus angle A, which is 42, right? It's going to be approximately 116.6 degrees, right? We need to solve for the sine length C, and we're done, right? So we have C over sine C equals A over sine A, right? Then C equals A sine C divided by sine A, right? Now A equals 22 sine of angle C, which is, we just calculated right here, 116.6, right? Divided by sine A, which is sine 42, right? It's going to be approximately 29.4, right? Finally, angle B is right here, right? Angle A is right here. Angle C is right here, right? The side length A is right here. Side length B is right here. And side length C is right here. And we're done, right? Now, example number 3, SSA has one solution, where A greater than or equal to B, right? Example number 4, SSA has two solutions. How does it work? Alright, so we're going to find two triangles for which A equals 12 meters, B equals 31 meters, and A equals 20.50 degrees, right? Now, we're going to go back over here. Remember, H equals B sine A, right? So, we have H equals B sine A. It's going to be 31 sine of 20.50 degrees, right? So we're going to print up the calculator. It's gonna be 10.86, right? Now we're gonna compare H with A and B, right? So observe that H less than A less than B, right? Now we have A over sine A equals B over sine B, right? So then we need to solve for angle B. Sine B equals B sine A over A, right? Now B equals 31 sine of 20.50 divided by A, which is 12, right? Now we're going to print up the calculator. So it's going to be approximately 0.905, right? We need to solve for angle B. So we need to take the inverse side, both sides. So it's going to be angle B equals inverse sine of 0.905, right? So we're going to press second sine of this number right here. Press enter. It's going to be 64.783 degrees, right? Now remember, on the unit circle, there are two angles between 0 and 180 degrees, whose sine are approximately 0.905, right? The first angle is 64.783, and the second angle is, I call this B2. It's going to be 180 subtract 64.783, right? So it's going to be approximately 115.217, right? Now, corresponding to values of angle B, we have two corresponding values of angle C, right? So we have the measure of angle C1 equals 180 subtract the measure of angle A plus measure of angle B1, right? So it could be 180 subtract angle A equals 20.50 plus B1, which is right here, 64.783, right, equals 94.717. We have little C1, right? Now remember, C1 right here is the side length. The bigger C1 right here is the measure of angle C, so keep that in mind. Over sine of bigger C1 equals A over sine A, right? So then little C1 equals A sine of angle C1 divided by sine A, right? So it could be 12 times sine of C1, which is sine of 94.717 divided by sine A, which is sine of 20.50, right? So it's going to be 34.15, right? Now we need to solve for the measure of angle C2. It's going to be 180 subtract measure of angle A plus measure of angle B2, right? So it could be 180 subtract 20.50 plus B2 is right here, 115.217, right? So it's going to be 44.283, right? Now again, we're going to use the log side, right? So we have little C2 over sine of angle C2 equals A over sine A, right? So little C2 equals A sine of angle C2 divided by sine of angle A, right? Now A right here equals 12 sine of angle C2, which is this guy right here, 44.283 divided by sine of angle 8, which is sine of 20.50, right? So we're gonna print up the calculator. It's gonna be 23.924, right? So we have two possible triangles. It's gonna be like this, and it's your time to stop. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember that if you failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail.
Tall buildings, as the chemicals they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun, as she puts her hand in mine.